Humility is that unseen substance which empowers us to speak truth in love. Humility allows us to approach the absolute in deed and in language while still bound to an individuated consciousness. Humility causes us to stand against church, empire, and ideology, even as we each remain guilty in our associations born into those systems. Humility is that which allows us to laugh at ourselves and love our enemies. Humility comes when we have fallen from grace 10,000 times, and we learn to stand only in God's strength. Humility is that wisdom which helps us to acknowledge a power that is deeper than the self, and yet not at all separate from the self. Humility allows us to engage with perfect love while being an imperfect vessel. Humility is not weak, and yet it is born of innumerable losses. Humility does not hush or shame us or cause us to grovel. Humility is how divine power is expressed through fallen beings. Humility is that which has taught us that we are all one, and that if I hate another human being, hate is reflected back into me. Humility urges us to see ourselves in one another. Humility asks us to breathe in silence and accept a grace that can only be known by a broken heart. Psalm 51:17 says, "The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart, O God, thou wilt not despise." Humility, I believe, shares the deepest love with us while expecting nothing in return. Humility hangs on a cross without becoming a victim. There's this life that I have seen in the one we call Jesus, Yeshua. There's this strength in being able to move forward step after step, free from ego. What do I mean by free from ego? There's a way to live, I'm discovering, that is free from desire. I no longer want to be here in this plane of existence, and yet I am. And I continue to speak of what I know to have the deepest value, like this message that I'm broadcasting to you right now about an abstract word like humility, right? Speaking of symbolic language, speaking of those abstractions that we humans seem to value so much. Words like liberty, justice, freedom, grace, truth. Breathing in and breathing out. We are story creatures. We like to describe things, and we like to tell stories. Sometimes we tell stories we might call cautionary tales, like, oh, you know what? I did this, and this happened. For instance, when I point my finger at another human being, when I judge, when I hate, I find that hate is perpetuated in myself. And so that's what it's like to discover a truth. If something happens over and over again, then we may come to value that as truth. We may call it truth. And we may know it so well that we say to ourselves, this is worth sharing. My life as a writer, as an artist, as a musician, as a storyteller, has come to this point where I have the power somehow to self-publish, to broadcast like this every day. And I hope that somehow in hearing these words that you feel less alone or encouraged somehow. And I'm honest with you. This is a very difficult experience for me, life right now. I often feel incredibly lonely and incredibly forgotten. And yet, I'm not so forgotten that I am completely in despair. And so I choose now to remember, possibly with you, dear listener, things that I believe have value. And that's what this is all about. That's why I talk about humility and grace and compassion. Here we are together, breathing in, breathing out, trying to remember that which we believe to have the deepest value.